And welcome back to NPRBS BrotoGP. I am your host, as always, NPR Kevin. And to my right, you'll see one Robert Pierce. Quickly, we'd like to thank the sponsor you may have just heard from us, Tortoise Teeth, for the anti-plastic minded elderly gentleman in your family. Tortoise Teeth, dentures made from recycled, no longer endangered tortoiseshells from the coast of East Africa. Now, after doing that, we will talk about the most recent MotoGP round one Catalunya, where some controversy took place that we will discuss in a lively, comedic, infotainment style manner. Once again, I'm Kevin, he's Rob, and this is BrotoGP.
And now for our real sponsor, Writer's Law with a Z.com. Check out Writer's Law with a Z, or rather, just writerslaw.com if you are in the state of California and you need some legal help. They're amazing lawyers. They do amazing things for our sport, motorcycle racing. They do amazing things for this podcast, and they will do amazing things for you in the courtroom should you need their legal help. We've even, like, Cy and lawyer Rob over there, they know people. So even if you're not in California, give them a call. They can definitely help you out. They know plenty of people around the entire country. And if you need legal representation, please call them and do yourself a favor. Get some legal help through them.
If
Kev,
you had any doubts about lawyer Rob and Sai's authenticity, if you will, just check out that it's Writer's Law with a Z. The Z in the classical late 90s, early zeitgeist sense, denoting being down from the hood, so to speak, connected to the people. The Z taking place of the S. A Z essentially being an S, but flipped to let you know that they won't flip on you, that they are there for you, they are down. Connected to such other amazing things, such as Biker Boys, spelled with a Z, now available on Netflix and Amazon as well, where you would find classic acting, amazing stunts, and the Z denoting that they are down with the homies, so to speak, connected to the streets. And I think that if you were to meet Cy and you were to get out of his incredibly expensive car with his well-paid lawyer fees, you would think, yes, there is one man from the streets. How do I know this? He spells his law firm with a Z. This is how you know, not unlike Lionel Hutz, that while he's a big shot attorney, he will also work for you, and he also has a half-drinking Orange Julius that he will sell you for half price.
sounds like a deal for that Orange Julius.
He'll be back.
All right, let's actually get to some motorcycle racing here, NPR Kev.
Yes, motorcycle racing, a classical sport where internal combustion engines attached to a chassis via only two wheels
Wait, how many
circle
wheels?
around a track. Two wheels.
How many tires are
One in the
there?
front, one in the back. Tire allocated to each wheel to go around a track in a clockwise or anti-clockwise fashion, dependent on the area of the world in which it's in. You would find in the more classical Western North American that counterclockwise tracks reign supreme, while traditionally on the European continent you would see clockwise tracks.
That's
Yes,
a very
folks,
good
that is
point.
true.
Catalunya is clockwise.
Intriguing. Provocative, even.
Provocative. I feel like that doesn't really come into play into who wins these races.
No, but I do think that what comes into play and who wins these races is who isn't just randomly taken out by Jorge Lorenzo.
Yeah, so let's dig into Jorge Lorenzo. Um, we've been accused before of not recording when Marc Marquez wins, and to that I say Marquez didn't win this race. We're going to talk about Jorge. So Jorge
Yes.
Lorenzo,
Who?
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 Who? Exactly. Jorge Lorenzo
Really
made.
quickly, for those of you who accuse us of not recording when Marquez wins, I'm going to go some dark humor here. That's all fun and games and it's good times, but the real reason we didn't record is because my cat died.
You,
So,
I don't.
like,
I wouldn't say that was dark humor.
so yeah, so all you guys who like to make the jokes on our Facebook and Instagram about that, there you go.
Well, and that's. I mean, that's not the only reason. I can be blamed a little bit for this reason too. My
Hmm.
computer decided to try and melt itself in
Correct.
response to cat hair. Yeah, do not
Right.
mix cat hair and electronics. Do not
This
mix.
computer that Rob had realized it was going to expend energy and time and memory into recording an episode about Marc Marquez winning, and the damn thing live in front of us attempting to commit seppuku, like right in front of us.
He's not
Like,
lying. He's not
remember that
lying.
Rage Against the Machine album where that Buddhist monk lights himself on fire, and that they had the cover of the Rage album? That's what his computer tried to do, as opposed to talk about Marc Marquez.
Which is why we're not going to do it today.
Right.
Yep. What do you want to talk about first with Jorge Lorenzo? His childish attempt at passing way too many riders into one corner very early in the race, or his very interesting tank attachments?
If we were to put this on a poll on Instagram, we would say, do you want to talk about his Pikachu tank, or do you want to talk about, because those things look like Pikachu's ears, straight up, bing.
Actually, that's a good
Or do
point.
you want to talk about the fact that Jorge Lorenzo made the race so boring that the 15-minute abridged recap on MotoGP.com is still hella boring?
It's bad.
It's
No
so
one,
boring. I
no one watched it.
rewatched it the other day before we went to record, before his computer tried to Chernobyl itself, and like I watched the 15-minute recap just to get it fresh in my mind right before that we recorded, and I'm like, I fell asleep. It's 15 minutes, and
So,
like this is how boring this race was.
I mean, like, I can't fault him for attempting to pass riders. Like, he's a professional motorcycle
That's
racer.
his job,
Yeah, exactly. That's
right?
his
It's
job.
what he gets paid to do, right?
He does seem to have some renewed confidence at this round, due to his Pikachu tank attachments, and obviously he was much further forward in the race than we'd seen him previously.
Correct.
There's
At
a
the track that he sort of like remember when he was with Ducati and he was just doing terrible, and then he had that third place in his first year, and while it didn't totally turn it around, there was like the moment of, see, I can do this on a new bike, a new team, and all that. And he's at that track, like the track he knows, like if he's gonna like sneak a podium, this is the one that it's gonna be. Hey, I got my tank, I'm at my track, and to quote, one Casey Stoner, ambition far outweighed his talent on this one.
Was that also in Catalunya?
No, that was
No.
at Le Mans. Le Mans.
Yeah. No, I mean, and even here last year, right? Like Jorge won in Mugello, he comes here, he wins again on the Ducati,
Right.
right? Like he told us on the Honda that he was going to be ready to go in Jerez. That didn't kind of happen. It didn't happen at all.
Right.
And
No kinda about it.
yeah, and now it seemed like Catalunya was where he had that energy going, where he was going to start picking up the results, and everything up until the first lap of the race showed us that as well. That he was going to get a solid top 5, top 6, which would be an amazing result for Jorge at this point. God, that's terrible to say.
Gotta start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. He went ham into what is kind of being described as not really a Catalunya type corner,
Right.
the F1 layout in turn 10, and destroyed the race.
Literally destroyed the race. And to be frank, pretty much destroyed the season.
Are we going to go there already?
I mean, I said from the get-go that this season, like, it's Marc Marquez's, it's in the bag, and he's gonna win, but I'd at least like to see it, like we all know Thanos is gonna lose, right? But we'll fucking still paid like $10 a ticket for 2 different movies to watch him lose, because the storyline of what we knew would eventually happen at least was interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like, but this
Well, and
just makes it so uninteresting.
and there were no spoilers, right? Like
Right.
we went into Endgame assuming that Thanos was going to be dead
Right.
eventually, but what happened was nowhere close to expectation.
Well, it's not unlike it. See, the thing is Thanos' head got cut off like 8 minutes into that movie, and then they flash forward 5 years. But guess what? None of us get to flash forward 5 years when Fabio already has a championship, and that and you know what I mean? Like, everyone is dope and all the stuff, and Pekka Bagnaia is doing great, and Jack Miller finally got his fucking factory bike, and he's got like 3 wins this season. We don't just get to fast forward to the fun stuff again.
We still have to build that monument with all of the disappeared people, like
Right.
on
All the disappeared writers, like all the fans who disappeared after that happened, everyone who turned their computers off after that happened. It's just a monument to that.
Oh my god, I never really put that together before. I mean, not to like, downplay half the universe's population dying, but I feel like that's where we are right now.
Half of the chances of the season died last race with just one snap. Boom,
At least for the
done.
title.
At least for the title, right?
All right. I feel like a bunch of people are going to want us to talk about whether or not it was Jorge's fault that he took out so many riders.
Is it his fault that the mistake, like, ping-ponged, like you see Valentino, like, that it ricocheted so many people? I mean, it's his fault, yes. How many times would that mistake at other tracks or other areas result in 4 people, him and 3 other people getting taken out? I don't know. We saw 11 DNFs this race. Maybe they would have crashed out anyway or fried their tires, but it's not like the first time we've seen this kind of thing happen. Like John Hopkins did it in what was that, in 2006, and got banned for a race because of it. Like, this track is prone for this kind of stuff to happen, and it's not the first time it's happened at this race. I mean, Loris Caprossi's title chances were pretty much destroyed in 2006 because of it.
It's funny that you bring that up because I'm pretty sure turn 10 at Catalunya has been the most crashed in corner for the past like 3-4 years. Even when they use the other configuration, the long sweeping corner, still the most crashed in corner between all 3 classes compared to every single other corner on the calendar that year. It's insane that it's just this one spot.
It's still his fault. Yes, Dovey kind of parked it, but like, this is a mantra that's thrown in time after time after time. It's the job of the passer. If you are making a pass that's so gangster that any minute change in the person in front of you results in a pinball effect that takes out that many riders, like, you're not making a good pass. That early on, too, to try to dive bomb that early on, it's just like, it's almost like he's like a 16-year-old getting his nut for the first time. He's just fucking pounding it home, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like, he didn't have any like pace or rhythm to figure out where he needed to go, picking off one guy at a time. Like, he just wanted to. It's like he had something to prove, but too much. He just started to throw a haymaker and he punched the ref instead, and the fight was over.
I actually take offense to the idea that Dovey parked it. Right, this has been thrown around quite a bit because Dovey was obviously trying to do the over/under or the cutback. If you look at the footage that was from the outside of the track, Dovizioso isn't losing significant amounts of ground to Marquez.
Right.
But if you compare Jorge to Marquez, Jorge is making up ground on Marquez. So even if Dovey hadn't parked it in quotation marks, because he's still taking the corner like what 2-3 miles an hour slower than Marquez is at this point. In the slow-mo, it's inching backwards. It's not like he stopped mid-corner like a B group track day rider. Even if you ignore that, as we should,
Let's be honest, a lot of A group track riders too.
Jorge Lorenzo's still gaining ground on Marquez. He's still gaining ground on Dovizioso. He was hot into the corner, and if anyone was there, no matter what speed that they were going at, he would have taken them out. He would have made contact.
Right. I mean, if your margin of error for your pass is so small that the person you're passing deviates slightly from your pattern prediction, results in a crash, it's too much. You're playing too close to the edge. You know what I mean? Like, it's too tight. It's too close of a pass. You are trying to gain too much. I mean, we've seen this a million times. Guys make passes. They're thinking about going. The guy shuts the door on them, or they block. There's so many different ways that passes aren't seen through. We've all watched hundreds of races, and Rob has participated
or this corner over and over again.
Over and over, right? You know that if the margin of error that you're deciding to use is so small that a slight deviation from the plan equals crash, you're dancing with fights. You're like Icarus. You're literally flying too close to the sun.
Well, yeah, I mean, and all the other riders in this case were able to deviate because something was happening, right? Like Marquez put on the pass on Dovizioso, went a little deep, didn't crash, right? Maverick let Jorge come underneath, kind of went a little wide, is essentially just expecting him to take the line. And if Jorge hadn't crashed, Maverick would have been fine as well. Rossi was kind of tangled up in it from behind, which I shouldn't say.
I'll save it. I'll save it.
You save it. But everyone else, like, and Dovizioso too, right? Dropped a tiny bit of corner speed to try the cutback on Marquez to retake the lead. Those
Mhm.
three riders were able to deviate from the ideal line due to something else happening and stayed upright. Jorge Lorenzo ended up pulling on the brake just a little bit more. The front tucked. He takes out all the interest in the race.
Literally all of it. I mean, I don't. It just was like I was yes. Fabio ends up getting a podium, and it's fucking amazing, and I was so stoked for it. But it was and he gets it by legitimately passing the previous race winner. So I don't really think it was gifted, so to speak. He had pole, he had pace all weekend, but it just took so much wind out of my sails for that to happen, because I knew that in the end this just means like what should be the overarching theme of the year is like already predetermined.
I mean, I guess at this point in our MotoGP watching career, so to speak, like we read
Hmm.
so far into the excitement that the title brings,
Right.
that it's hard to appreciate a race like this when we know that the title's now, what is it, 39 points? 37 points.
Right.
Which,
That's huge.
yeah, it's huge if Marquez is the one in front. If it's
Yes.
Dovizioso 37 points in front, we're like, we're still on the edge of our seats there.
Right. Exactly.
Well, so the other part that we should talk about with Jorge Lorenzo is essentially what happened in our minds with not really his career, but where we wanted him to take his persona, his what, not ambiance. I can't even think of the word. Like, we've been rooting for Jorge to embrace the villain for years now. Like,
But yes, but the problem is that we wanted him to embrace the villain and like become the anti-hero, right? Like we love like man, he was so good, so good. We liked him, then he kind of sucked. We hated him. He was like he was this fucking weirdo with scarves and hanging out with fake friends on cribs. He's going through this like, arc of the anti-hero, right? He's the villain. He does terrible. It's like at first you're kind of excited he does shitty, but then you're like, fuck, he's actually kind of our only hope to beat Marquez. Then he turns it around and he's like embracing on social media his hyper weirdness, and he's just owning it, and it's becoming like the meta is changing. It's becoming funny. And then you're like, man, I kind of like this guy for how fucking weird he is. Like, how he's just owning it. And damn, he's fucking fast. And on that Ducati, man, he's winning. He's like kind of the only real threat to Marquez. And now, like, the storyline of his like Phoenix like rebirth on the other side is like he's becoming this anti-hero that we like. He's like Venom, right? Like back in the day, Venom was the bad guy, and then slowly but surely he was turned into a good guy in the comic books, in the sense that like you rooted for him as a character, right?
yeah. I
And
mean, well,
but
there's so
and
much
so you
underdog tropes too, like with Jorge
and there's just
Lorenzo.
the story is intriguing and weird, and his embracing of his. I mean, the dude is fucking strange, man. Like, but I'm not trying to hate on it, because I was just having this argument on Twitter about how like every F1 driver, like, is just like a corporate stooge, and Jorge is not. And then he's like a corporate stooge in the weirdest way. Like he's selling lawnmowers and weed whackers and shit. And you're
That's
like,
so
what is
great.
going on? So his Instagram page is like a corporate sellout like shill page, but in the weirdest way. Like the stuff that he's selling, this is like, you're like, wow, he's like selling a leaf blower, but he got in his full like landscaper dude status and is like walking around with a leaf
I
blower.
want to
And you're
buy
like,
that leaf blower.
right, exactly. Because if there's anything that Rob needs, it's a mechanical blowing device. But like, right?
Set you
But
up there.
like, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna pour myself some wine for that one. But it was almost like awesome. You're like, oh my god. And then he's posting those pictures of him with like the biggest scarf ever in the middle of summer. Like, bro, and then he's talking on Twitter about like someone's like, why do you wear so many scarves? And he straight up deadpans it because my neck is cold. Like, and you're like, is he being serious, or is he like being self-aware? And it was cool. I was rooting for him. It was awesome, because the embracing of the villain is eventually becomes like the other side. You become the anti-hero, like, in like what we quote the Dark Knight constantly, like he's the hero we deserve, But then doing this fucking stupid boneheaded ass move just erases like a year's worth of fucking goodwill. He's
Ah.
completely flipped the meta again, and now everyone just hates him.
So
Like they
he's
don't have a good time hating him. Like you love to hate Ric Flair. You know what I mean? Like it's so fucking fun to like hate the guy who wears the sequin gown and pokes the eyes and the ref's not looking, and it's like it's fun to dislike that guy. You know what I mean? Like Deadpool. If you ever watch Deadpool, he like in Deadpool 2, he's so upset about his girlfriend dying that he blows himself up. What about all the people in the apartment that he fucking blew up? What?
never thought about them.
You know what I mean? Right. You never thought about them. Anyways, it's like, so it's like he's so bad at being a villain, it's funny again. And it's
Yeah.
to say, I don't know, but
Jorge
this
was
just
almost there. It just he was
so
almost to
fucking
Deadpool.
close. He was almost there.
He just needed to like if we're going with Deadpool metaphors, he just needed to kill the right person. Unfortunately,
Right.
at this point, he killed like 4 of his teammates.
Correct. Right.
In the knockoff X-Men that are in the Deadpool movies.
The X-Force.
That's
Brad Pitt.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Right.
No, yeah. So I mean, what has he reverted back to? Just straight up villain? Are we gonna
Yes,
continue
because
to hate him?
it's like it's like he goes all the way to like he pulls the same card he played last year, right? He's like, I need my tank, bro. I need those tank wings, dog. Get my Pikachu ears, and you will see. I'm gonna fly back to Japan. And then they show us this tank, and the tank is like 2 paper mache like Scottish fold cat ears just stuck to the side of the tank.
Hey, those
and
things
you're thinking
were
to
30
myself,
grand a piece.
and you're thinking to yourself, this motherfucker's gonna win this race, isn't he? With these fucking stupid ass 8th grade summer camp paper mache. They probably blew up a balloon to mold those things. Like he's like 8 years old and they're making paper mache, right? And you're thinking like, this motherfucker flew 20 hours from Spain to Japan, first class, to go meet with the head of HRC, and he's like, bitch, I don't like it when my knees can move up a couple inches. That isn't good. And they're like, I guess we'll just 3D print up some things and super glue them to the side. And he's like, I will win if you super glue 3D printed dumps onto the side of my tank. And then you're like, holy shit, he's kind of fast. He's looking good. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, look at him in the first lap. Like, and the new Jorge fan is like, back in the day, you would have complained. You're like, this fucking guy needs to nut up or shut up. Get on the bike and ride it. Quit bitching about a tank. But 2019 MotoGP fan is like, damn, this guy's gonna fucking do it. This guy is so fucking weird that if you just jam 2 Snickers onto the side of the bike so that his knees don't go up a little bit, he's gonna win. How fucking weird is that? And I saw the picture, and I'm like, look at this shit. Because Rob is like, he's a fucking aerospace engineer. He wants everything made perfect. He is like, he like literally fucking busts a nut if he sees like a nice aluminum frame. And I sent him that picture of like, check out the new tank. And it's like Play-Doh stuck to the side of the bike.
The one part that I really enjoyed was the discrepancy between what Ducati did when Jorge needed the tank and what Honda produced. Like,
Right.
I feel like Honda or HRC just didn't really trust him. They were like, all right, but we're not going to make you like a new tank cover. We're going to like, we'll just make these little tiny ones that we're going to glue on there. Whereas Ducati, like, at least, so Ducati held off. Like, supposedly they held off for 6 months before giving him the new tank cover, before actually believing him that that's what he needed. And then he went out and he won. Right? The second he got it, won 2 races. Honda is like, we've seen this before. Like, I don't think we can spend like $40,000 to make this tank cover. We'll just do $20,000 for these 2 little stick-on ones. And we have some GoPro tape. That'll hold them on.
Right. Legit. Right. Exactly.
But
They
it's
just put some
HRC.
like,
They're twice the size of Ducati, and yet this is what they produce. They flew him out there. They spent just as much on airfare as they did on these 2 parts for Jorge Lorenzo. Like, that'll be fine.
Right. And then so all the fans are like, I mean, at least most people I knew are like, can you believe this shit, what he asked for? And then you're like, can you believe this motherfucker? He's asking for this shit. And then you're like, can you believe this motherfucker's probably going to win with this thing? It's going to
Yeah.
be fucking hilarious.
No, the
Like,
storyline would have been perfect.
it would have been hilarious. Like, look at these. This is the pinnacle of motorsport on the two-wheeled fucking, motorcycle motorsport. The pinnacle. KTM is spending $250 million, and you like, can you euros, right? Can you imagine if you showed this fucking tank cover to some guy in F1? Like, this is the pinnacle of the sport. This looks like some shit some guys borrowed at a track day. Like, they made it. Like, John Britton molded out of fiberglass in the fucking backwoods of Australia something that looked and performed better than this.
Yep. Yeah, no, he really did.
What was that guy, the Moto Sizz? You remember that thing where he like tried to reinvent forks and say like the compression damping and the rebound damping should be separate parts of the fork and all that?
Well, he made them with like bearings in the forks as opposed to bushings and
right, and
combined
then
it all together. Did some crazy shit.
All that weird shit, right? But and legitimately cool. And one day we should do, not to go aside, one day we should do an episode on those bikes. The Britain,
the real prototypes,
the Moto Sizz, and I want you guys to look this up, the Tolaris 800cc two-stroke snowmobile racers that a bunch of actual rocket scientists created and rode around in America back in the day, in the mid-2000s. I don't have it off the top. This is off the top of my head. Look it up. We'll do an episode on it. But, like, can you imagine, like, those guys? Like, John Britton was hand casting cranks and shit in his garage. And this and Repsol Honda has millions of dollars, and they have these weird janky ass pieces of like melted Legos stuck to the side of the bike.
I love how you're just downplaying the fact that they're definitely like vacuum autoclaved laid up carbon fiber.
No, they're not.
No, they're melted Legos.
Yes.
Wait, what's the new thing? Can you like fix this with spaghetti or something, right? Like it's all over YouTube. You like epoxy spaghetti onto some repair or whatever. You grind it down, sand it, and you make it look like brand new.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly.
This is literally. I mean, I'm not even joking. They took like 8 packs of Top Ramen. Took the plastic off.
It's not spaghetti, it's ramen.
Okay. And then sanded it down smooth, polished it up, and glued it to the side. And they're like, hey, man, don't lift up too hard. You'll pop that right off.
That's exactly what it is. It's ramen. There's a dude on YouTube that all he's doing is fixing things with ramen.
Right, you know how you fix ramen with ramen? You take your ramen and you make it, and you make all of your ramen, but you don't use their sauce packet. You take actual stock and make your own. But the key to fixing ramen with ramen is after you make the ramen, you take a handful of uncooked ramen and you sprinkle it across the top. So then you have texture change. You have crunchiness on top of the fucking ramenness, and it gives it just like that kick. I'm telling you, try that shit right now. Make ramen. It's only going to cost you get like 92 ramen for $1 at Costco.
Yes, I went to college. There was a time that was...
You sprinkle dried ramen on top of the ramen that you've already cooked after the fact.
Yeah, so what you do, you just make sure you don't buy the cup, you buy the packet. And
right, don't buy the... First of all, who buys the fucking cup?
Lots of people buy the cup. You remove the noodles gently from the packet, and then you're left with the sprinkles in the packet at the end. And you just don't cook those right away. You don't
you don't cook them at all. You cook all of the noodles except for like a crunched up part, and then you sprinkle it on top. You have to Salt Bae it. Ramen status.
Salt Bae did not exist when I was eating ramen. Really.
Right. Well, it did for me. That's how I did it. I was like...
My hack for ramen is an egg in the pan before it's done cooking.
Yes.
Water. Maybe some frozen veggies. If you're feeling like spending a lot of money.
My hack for ramen is just dumping a bunch of sake into the broth.
That sounds... would that add a lot of flavor? Or just gonna boil off? What's going on?
First of all, I don't boil the ramen. You keep it
Oh.
sub boil.
Ah, okay. So it just makes it more interesting. All right, we're getting off topic
What
here.
about you? What about me? Over the course of like 5 years of making you do this podcast, makes you think I care about the taste when it comes to my booze?
I thought you were gonna say food, but yes, alcohol. No, not so much.
Right.
I feel like your palate is discerning, but you don't care.
No, it is just like my coffee. I will take NBR. Kevin will take the most fair trade highlands of Guatemala grown by indigenous peoples, hand-picked, handcrafted, hand-roasted coffee beans, shipped via donkey across the Sonora Desert straight to California, and then served to me by the young indigenous child while he recants to me his family's history via spoken word poem. Or I'll drink the muddiest fucking gas station coffee you could find that's been like the same beans through the same filter 3 times and love it just as much. I'm a discerning ass palate, but I will dominate shit like shitty liquid just for the sake of it.
You really shouldn't say that you'll dominate shitty liquid.
Whatevs. Don't you judge me. Don't you judge what me and consenting adults do in the privacy of our home.
I didn't judge you. I just feel like you shouldn't tell people.
What? I'm not trying to hide nothing. I got no shame.
All right, you got no shame. Do you think
Anyway,
Jorge
so for
Lorenzo
Jorge,
has any shame?
what's that?
You think Jorge has any shame?
I think. I mean, I don't know, man. Like he walked back to his thing, and even what's his name on the commentary was like, "Yo,
Simon.
you better close the doors. They're gonna kill him." Like, I mean, Maverick was like, "What the fuck?" Like right on this, you know what I mean, on the screen. It's just. I mean, shit happens, and when you race long enough, shit happens. It's not like any of those guys haven't caused a crash, I mean, or done something stupid, but man, it took the wind out of so many people's sails for the race and for a lot of the year. It's just like, man, you ruined it, bro. You ruined it.
I wonder if I can blame HRC a little bit for his for some front end feel woes and Jorge tucking the front into that corner. Right? Maybe if he was on the Yamaha or maybe if he was on the Ducati still, he would have been able to put the bike exactly where he wanted on corner entry and wouldn't have tucked the front.
Maybe if he hadn't done super terrible all year and the mutterings of whether he gets sacked or not, then he flies to Japan and then suddenly comes right back to Japan is super fast and yet torpedoes every single one of Maverick Vinales' fucking, or excuse me, every one of Marc Marquez's rivals in the race right after Japan and totally makes it so Mark should run straight to the title. Like, not weird at all. That's just not convenient or weird or anything. Like, literally, I might not have a job. I suck. I can't ride this bike. Ducati sacked me. Where else am I going to go? And then, hey, I meet with HRC in some secret meeting where they fly me all the way out there. And the next race, I take out every one of the rivals for HRC. Ain't that weird?
You think Alberto Puig was a little happy about that?
A little?
I mean, they weren't happy enough to give him like a race bonus. They couldn't have. But there was probably a private conversation of like, well, you didn't take out Mark.
Right. He got a real big gift certificate to H&M for some scarves. A real big one.
How many scarves?
He got at least 99 scarves.
99 scarves?
99 scarves.
Damn. That's like a whole $200 at H&M.
Right. Exactly. But fun fact, I bought a scarf from H&M in Sweden once. Because I ate some surströmming, if you know what that is.
I don't.
It's the most foul-smelling food on the planet. It's fermented herring, raw, like rotten fermented herring for 5 years. It smells so bad. Look up surströmming tasting on YouTube. You will see people vomiting their ass off.
Wait, so it's worse than like the rotten Greenland shark in Iceland?
Way worse. Way worse. Not even comparable. And it smelled so bad that the next door neighbor, when we were up in northern Sweden in a town called Haparanda, he opened the door and said, "You guys having surströmming?" And then he came over and had some. Like he smelled it from 200 yards away and was like, "I'm going to get in on that." But he came and we ate it. But it smelled so bad that it ruined my clothes.
All of them?
I literally went. I was traveling to what I thought was Finland, uh,
We're not
which
going
is a
there
whole
this time.
separate argument. But what I thought was Finland, which wasn't. But that's despite this. That's despite the point. We'll get to that later. And I was like, my clothes smell so bad. I walked to an H&M and bought an entire new set of clothes, shirt, scarf, pants, socks, and then threw my clothes away and then put those clothes on. Yes, I took all my clothes off in the middle of the mall, my underwear, threw them in the garbage can, and changed into my new clothes. One of them was a sweet scarf from H&M. It was my Jorge scarf.
Even your socks?
It was bad. It was real bad, bro. I'm seriously, look up Surströmming. I know this is way off topic, but it's the most foul smelling food you will ever like smell in your whole life. They have like the Surströmming challenge and stuff. Like, remember when Bart put the beer in the paint shaker and then Homer opens the door to the thing for April
Yeah.
Fools and the beer is jumping around?
Yeah.
The Surströmming can is like the can looks like it's from the 80s. Right, like the logo, and like remember when you're in like junior high and in science class and in biology class, they say never eat a can that has like bubbles because that's botulism.
Yeah.
Well, Surströmming, the whole can is just bubbling over, like it just bubbles everywhere, and they're like, no, that's how you know it's good. That's how you know it's fucking ripe.
Because it's so bad, the botulism can't even live in
So
there.
when you open it, it's just like it's just a whole fish. They don't like gut it or cut the head off. They just take a fish, stick it in a can with some seawater, and call it a day. And you open it up, and there it is, still looking back at you with its like existing eye that somehow hasn't melted. And it's looking at you, going, "You don't want me, but you're gonna have me." And it's just like,
and the
this
neighbor's
is
gonna
so,
come over.
the neighbor's gonna come over, right? And it's like, god damn. And it smelled, and it's so fermented, the bones like melt when you touch them. You can just eat the bones. Anyways, yes, it smelled so bad that after 8 cups of coffee, I still had it in my mouth for like 3 weeks. Title of Rob's sex tape. And yeah, it's so. Anyways, I highly recommend if you're ever in Sweden or what you think is Finland but isn't Finland, is actually just Estonia or Eastern Russia or Western Russia, you would get some Surström.
I think you sold every one of our listeners on it. You really did. So
I will give, I don't know what, but if you order a can of Surströmmen and eat it on the BrotoGP Army page, you'll what I will think of something. I don't know what. It'll be fucking fantastic. I have no. You'll be on the next episode.
a free shirt from our next like 3 shirt printings.
All whatever. Yeah, you free. The first guy to eat a whole can of Surströmmen and video it on the page gets free shirts for life. I'm not even fucking joking. As long as we make shirts, I will give you that shirt. The next shirt is free.
Where some Swede is gonna be super stoked. I've shipped shirts to Sweden before.
Fucking Swedes love us.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're way off topic on the race now.
It's okay.
That's how fucking exciting this race was. I'd rather talk to you about gross food.
We have 2 points left, so let's get to the second one here. Let's transition from grossly fermented fish to the sexiest Frenchman on the grid.
Woo! Fabio getting tatted too. He just got some new tats. I'm gonna get some new tats the next couple weeks, a whole bunch. I'm gonna get massive amounts, and that fucking dude is fresh off a podium, fresh off a pole, fresh off of letting everyone know he's the next Casey Stoner.
That's exactly what I want to talk about. But before we get there,
Weird. It's like I knew that.
It's like we have an outline.
It's like we have a syllabus.
You have one motorcycle racing tattoo.
Yes.
Are you gonna get another one?
No.
No, not going there.
I can't.
Not yet.
No.
All right.
I have a Marco Simoncelli tattoo. It's like an abstract thing. You wouldn't really know what it was. It's on the back of my left arm, which I'm going to get. I can't even really show it to you, like angle-wise. I have a hard time imagining there'd be any reason for me to get another one.
All right. Just wondering.
Yes.
So Fabio Quartararo, that's actually. I'm glad you brought up Casey Stoner because I feel like that is our entry point for comparison.
By the way, I'm getting 4 + 5 = 8 tattooed on my calf, if anyone wants to know.
I feel like you have an inside joke about that. Tell us later. Fabio Quartararo is better than Casey Stoner.
What?
That
No.
I'm saying it right now.
What?
So, like the Rob that I am, I have looked up the stats.
He has looked up the stats.
I have looked up the stats. So we're gonna compare Fabio circa 2019 to Casey Stoner circa 2006. Honestly, kind of.
Hold on. Before we do this, let me pour myself a nice glass of 100% whole milk. All right.
There is
Now I'm
no
ready.
way that Fabio is lactose intolerant. There's no way. In fact, he should just do that. You know how the Australians have the shoey? He should just chug a glass of milk. I feel like that'll work out great.
Yeah, exactly. For at least the BrotoGP fans, it'd be hella funny.
All right, so we'll recap Casey Stoner's first year real fast here. His first pole came at the second round of the MotoGP Championship at Qatar. His first podium came at the third round at Turkey, and he did not get a second pole in 2006. He did not get a second podium in 2006. Instead, he proceeded to, as Kev would say, crash his brains out.
Right.
So he by here at the Mugello round, at the Catalunya round, crashed. Germany didn't start the Laguna round, retired, and then the final 3 rounds of the year in Motegi, Estoril, and Valencia crashed those rounds too. So
if I may rewind for a quick second, you may wonder why we've decided on this episode to discuss whether Fabio is better than Casey Stoner. For example, like you could say, well, Johan Zarco got a pole and got podiums in his first year. Or you could say Danny Pedrosa won 2 races. Like, there's a lot of reasons why. But the specific reason we're talking about Stoner, Fabio, and all that is there's a couple other outlying things. One, brand new team to the paddock. It's first year. Just like LCR Honda, that was their first year. So brand new team. Brand new rookie rider. There's a lot of like Stoner shouldn't, in a weird way, he did what he should have done,
but we only know that now.
Show his brilliance. But due to the fact that he was on a rookie squad, rookie team, their first like foray into racing, should have crashed a bunch because they're still getting their fucking feet wet. You know what I mean? But so the Sepang Petronas SRT team is brand new. They are coming to season the first year. We're taking a rider who won some races previous year, but never really fought for the title and never really fought for championships the way that was expected. You look at Stoner, Stoner's very similar to Fabio. Stoner goes to the KTM, the KTM team back in the two-stroke era, and he doesn't really do nearly as well as we expect. Fabio did the same thing. He came from CEV. He was written as the next Rossi. Like, everyone talked about this kid like he's fucking amazing, and he goes to the Leopard Energy team. But what do they run that year? They run KTMs instead of the Honda that Danny Kent won on. So he's on a KTM, and he can't really show what they do. Now, what happened when they went back to Honda? One Mr. Mir breaks the record for like most wins in a season. Dominates most points. I can't remember what it was exactly offhand, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Fabio is on this amazing team, but on a crappy bike that's not really capable of it. But he goes to the intermediate class. He's able to get a couple of wins, although one was taken back for some weird rule technicality. But come on, he won that race, and we all know it. And then he goes to MotoGP with a brand new rookie team out of nowhere who still has to get their feet wet too. But what is he able to do with them? But pole, podium early on.
I like how in the beginning of that you started talking about both of them, because I actually don't know which one you were talking about, because they both had very similar careers in at least in the year before their GP debut. Actually, I would give
There's a lot of parallels there is what we're saying.
Yeah, I would give 2005 to Casey Stoner over Fabio Quartararo, because Stoner got a couple of wins and was second in the championship to Danny Pedrosa. Right? Like, losing the 250 title to Danny Pedrosa that's very that's beyond respectable.
Right.
But all right. Wait, where was I with
We're talking
recounting?
about why he's better. I was just reminding people why we're really making this comparison to begin with, and why Rob is going to go explain to you guys why he thinks the signs show that Fabio is even more of a transcendent talent.
You did actually start. You got me going with 2 points in there. So, and I will come back to them. But yeah, so Casey Stoner on LCR Honda 2006 was the year, was still in the heyday for the RC211V. If you were riding a Honda, especially in 2006, that bike could win races. So
It won a shit. Tony Elias won a race on it.
exactly. So like we can't discount the machinery that Stoner was on, right? The LCR team has shown us over the years that they could be competitive, and they were going to be lasting in GP. Of course, that's hindsight at this point. But the machinery was there. Casey Stoner managed to take advantage of it within his rookie year, put it on the box very early in the season. Unfortunately, had those results later on in the season that just weren't becoming of both the talent that he would become and the machinery that he was on. And I mean, and to be fair, the whole 2006 season still stands out as a massive outlier in MotoGP.
The season when if you were gonna win a race, the time you would do it, right? It wasn't until a couple of seasons ago that they broke the record for most wins by more riders than that season. You know, if you were gonna steal a win, so to speak, if you were going to take advantage of a situation, 2006 was the time.
Wait, I gotta look it up here real fast. Did we break the record with 9?
Yes, when they won 9 races, when Dovey was on cloud 9.
No, I know, but I thought it was. It's somewhere in my notes. Oh, I've got to go so far back. Where is it? Number of winners by year. 2006 was 7. Yes, you're correct.
Right.
2000 was 8. And
2000, the year 2000 was an awesome year. There was so many weird rain races, and you had Gary McCoy fucking turning everything on their head with the sliding. You had Kenny Roberts winning races when he needed to, head down, the working man. You had Valentino coming up on his factory, but not factory, but totally was factory, sponsored by the beer company, like winning it. If you want to talk about epic seasons, 2000 was a hell of a season.
well, that's why I keep this list around, just in case there's any other watching that I need to do, right? We've got 9 in 2016. We've got 8 winners. This is winners, individual winners per season. 8 in 2000. 7 winners was 92 and 2006. 6 winners was 93, 96, and 99. The average, unfortunately, is like 3.5. So we're not going to go there. But yeah, I don't know. You're not surprised that I have that stat sitting on my computer.
Not offhand, but what people probably are surprised does is that you're going with one showing by Fabio and extrapolating, so to speak, is that he is actually better than Stoner. So, please continue.
Oh, we will get back to that. All right.
Okay.
So we brushed up on Casey Stoner's career in 2006. Fabio Quartararo, you've just watched it recently. His first pole came in the 4th round at Jerez, which is a little bit later than Casey's. His first podium came here at Catalunya, the 7th round, and his second pole actually came here at Catalunya as well. So just based on those 3 metrics, he's already better. Casey Stoner would have had more points at this point because he didn't have a really shitty first round and was in the top 6 the entire time.
Or stall the bike on the grid after he. Right.
Yeah, that didn't really help at all. Actually, speaking of that, Fabio Quartararo did get a fastest lap in that race because he was trying to fight through the field, and I think he had another one. Actually, I forgot to write that one down. But so purely based on like hard numbers and metrics, Casey and Fabio are about even. What gets me is what you already brought up. They're both on new teams, but the machinery isn't there. Fabio is on the M1 where the factory riders aren't doing shit. They're not getting the performances that you would expect from a factory Yamaha. Fabio is outshining them. And not even just like, sure, he doesn't have more points than they do at this point, right? Where are the numbers here?
Yeah, but one number that's odd is during the testing after this race, he had his first crash
Yeah, right.
in any test, any session, any race, any QP, any post race test. He crashed for the first time
I love that old
once.
adage of you can get a fast guy to stop crashing, but you can't make a slow guy fast.
Bullshit.
Well,
Dovey completely destroys that whole idea.
yeah, kind of.
It's nonsense.
If you assume that he was slow, which I don't know if I would.
Right.
But Fabio just is fast and doesn't crash.
He just fast and doesn't. Right. Exactly. Right.
Whereas Marc Marquez even crashes.
He's just fast and crashes.
Yeah, and
He just crashes
Marquez,
at the right time.
exactly at exactly the right time.
Right.
Whereas just Fabio finally had his first crash to the Catalunya test, which I don't know if we'll ever really dive into Catalunya test. There wasn't much but funny memes of Jorge's bike ending up on the tire wall.
Right. Luckily, funny memes is my forte.
So if they're like we've talked about asterisks before, right? If I have to nitpick these two careers up until the 7th round of their MotoGP career and their rookie season, and I have to give it to Fabio because the M1 has shown last year and this year that it's not really there. Whereas Casey Stoner was on a satellite RC211V, which was arguably the best MotoGP bike of all
Without
time.
even looking at a stat sheet, I will tell you in 2006 who won races on the RC211V. You had, let's see, Marco
All of
Milan.
them.
You had Nicky Hayden. You had Tony Elias. You had Danny Pedrosa. I'm pretty sure Makoto Tomato won a race that year too, but I'm not sure. I know he
Nope.
won in 2005.
Yeah, it was the year
He
before.
won in Brazil in 2005, right? But you've talking about four dudes, or what's that? Yeah, four dudes. How many fingers I got to go on there? Four guys winning races on that bike. You had one guy in Yamaha win a race in like the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, there were only two riders that didn't win on a Honda in 2006, and that was Makoto Tamada and Casey Stoner.
Right.
So I mean, and we're not downplaying Casey Stoner's results here because that was an amazing rookie season aside from
Not
the
hating.
crashes.
No judgment.
Yeah. So how do we think this is going to transition into the rest of the season for Fabio? Like we've talked about this before, that classically the satellite teams do better in the beginning of the season, and then the factory teams really get into their stride and push them back.
So I have a point about this. One of our friends that happens to have talked about while at a certain race. I'm not going to say who's who, but actually speaking a little bit with some members of the Yamaha SRT team. And one of the things that, and I guess I can't corroborate this, but it was at least brought up, is that Petronas had been looking to get in GP for a while, but was only willing to do it into a situation where they could hit the ground running. But one of the things they'd been doing was putting aside money, so to speak, budgeting for the eventual entry into MotoGP.
Wait,
so that they could.
Do you mean the team itself, like the
No,
SIC team, or the
Petronas,
sponsor?
but the sponsor. The
Okay.
idea being that when they entered MotoGP, they wanted to hit the ground running, meaning they wanted like a boost, so to speak. So whereas like KTM say they budgeted $250 million for 5 years, so $50 million a year, Petronas was ready to dump an extra amount of money into the team, boom, to start, get it running, get the right personnel, get them going, and let's get going right away. Like the last thing we want is a dearth of money whatsoever. We're going to hit the ground running with this. So I see Petronas as a team that was ready to go. Yes, they didn't have they weren't an official team before. You could say LCR had race experience before, then they moved up. They won a bunch of races in 250. They've been running around, same people, and they're learning. But what Petronas had was from the corporate level down, a commitment to excellence off the bat that like sort of predated the team, saying that we know we're going to enter GP, and we want to make sure when we do, like this is an Ilmore in the end of 2006. Right.
Well, and it's not surprising, right? Petronas as a corporate entity has lots of experience in motorsports, right? They
a lot of
win
fucking money.
championships and a lot of money, right? If you're a high level team and you need a sponsor, go after some international oil.
Right. Definitely. If you need extra money, you go after lube. If you need extra money, you get yourself a whole bunch of lube
Wait a
and
minute.
you lube up them pistons. And no,
Wait a minute. How much? How
right.
much money is in lube?
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Um,
Is it more than an herbal? Do you think I could get more money from lube than herbal essence?
yeah, I don't know how much money could you get from what was it, tortoise teeth? What was the NPR Kevin talking about?
Never mind. Never mind.
Rob was literally like, make up a commercial for a fake NPR
I
before we
did not
start this,
request that
and I
one
was
bit.
like,
You just
what?
went with it. No, so that's interesting to hear because we've kind of guessed that Petronas is actually funding the satellite M1s better than Tech 3 ever did.
Right.
Right. I mean, we guessed, we speculated that they were actually giving, like, paying more for the bikes and giving more money to the factory itself, both to get better satellite machinery and to just kind of help out the factory team.
I mean, yeah, and if Hafiz Siren at Sepang last year showed anything, is that we know where the money is, we know where the fan is, and we know where the focus of the sport is moving. And Yamaha sort of weirdly lucked their way into a sponsor from an area of the world that is so fucking jacked. Like, I don't remember the exact number, but like Hafiz Siren at Sepang sold like as much like merchandise as the rest of the paddock combined. That includes Valentino, who is like, a
On
god over there. Like, they
on
love him.
Friday. On
On
Friday.
Friday, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so, and you're talking about that's a sub-level guy, like they know he's not winning races or podium. I mean, they're just jacked out of their mind that one of their people is there. You know what I mean? So Petronas, to get to connect to them almost through like an accident and be like, well, fuck, here's our chance. We're gonna get these bikes. We're gonna fund. And then what do? They hit the ground running. They got podiums. They got pole positions. I think Yamaha this is not the same situation that Tech 3 had. Like, I think Petronas is getting whatever the fuck they ask for.
If they have the money and they're showing the results, I would agree. They're getting everything they need.
Mm-hmm.
So so you're kind of like disagreeing with me here a little bit that that we should mark the machinery as equal between Casey Stoner and Fabio Quartararo.
No. I think the RC211V was a vastly superior machine in its heyday than the M1 is now. All I'm saying is that the one thing Fabio doesn't have, like, what has LCR Honda been since day one? The, like, underdog who snags weird sponsors for 2 rounds. You know what I mean? They got Playboy sponsoring them 1 round, then Flexbox.
Did
And
they
then,
do that back in 2006 too?
no, it was just, it looked like a club. It looked like a club bike. It had like 90 sponsors on the side of it. I'm pretty sure I personally sponsored the bike for like $30, and just Kevin is on the side of it somewhere. But all I'm saying is that the one thing Fabio does have playing to his hand more so is that he has like the full weight of a massive sponsor that's take no shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point that I actually didn't consider.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually probably leads into a better second half of the season for Fabio than Casey Stoner had.
That's where I was going with all of that, to where we led into that, you talked about like where factories, the satellite teams traditionally fall off. You see Johan Zarco and certain teams, the factories go. What SRT Petronas has ahead of them is that the Yamaha team is sucking balls, and Fabio really is kind of their main star for all of Yamaha right now. But
Mm-hmm.
also they have the budget that others, that like a team like Tech 3 traditionally didn't have, that a team like Pramac didn't have. In a way, or the team like LCR Honda doesn't have, right? Like, they have massive amounts of money and long-term investment into that. It's kind of like having Red Bull money, but on a good bike, as opposed to a shit KTM, with 18 dildos welded together to make their frame.
Well, and we've talked about before how motorsports, or especially motorcycle racing, is a team sport, right? If Petronas can pay for the best technicians that they can possibly buy, employ,
Right.
then they're going to do better. And Fabio is not going to fall off at the later parts of the season. He's going to have these sort of races. And like, I mean, you said earlier too, when we were talking about Jorge, that that sure, Fabio got second after a bunch of people crashed out, but he still only finished the race 2.6 seconds behind Marquez. Like, call
Right.
it 3.6 seconds, because of course Marquez slowed down at some point to kind of just bring it home. That's still beyond a respectable finish. Like, that's podium pace in any MotoGP race to be 3 seconds off the winner.
Absolutely. And straight up put the fucking pass on Petrucci with some stank on it in those, closing laps. And, Petrucci, the straight up clear, no questions winner of the previous.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I was wondering going into this round is if that balance of Ducati and Honda, with Ducati finding something at the flowing tracks and using their horsepower, was going to transfer from Mugello over to Catalunya. And we kind of look at it, and with Petrucci 4.5 seconds back, you say, like, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Like, can't entirely be certain. But then Fabio, like, is on a bike that may have absolutely no horsepower, and he's making up all his time in the fast flowing corners and beating Petrucci.
Right, which obviously is the way that you eventually become, if you're making up your time in the fast flowing corners, learn how to push the bike, then you get the horsepower, and it's lights out. So you see Fabio able to do things, with a inferior bike against a bike. I mean, I don't just mean inferior from a technical standpoint, but inferior in the sense that, like, he's got to override that bike to stay with Petrucci. You saw how many races this year. Like, look at Rins, right? Like, Rins is a classic example of a guy whose skill set is insane. He's doing great, and he's riding the fucking rails off that thing only to get all the distance he's able to create destroyed as soon as you have any element of a straightaway.
Yeah, and if he tries to be in front, he just gets passed instantly by both the Honda and the Ducati this year.
Right, exactly.
And it honestly still does look like all the M1s have less horsepower than the factory Suzuki. It's a bet, like, which just leads me more into thinking that Fabio is further overriding this motorcycle.
Right. No, it's the fourth best bike by far. And if to go back to 2006 comparison, you look at, like, Stoner was on the best bike. That year, the Yamaha was nowhere. Valentino Rossi's bike was blowing motors, losing power, chunking tires. The fucking
no front end feel either.
No front end feel whatsoever. Colin Edwards wasn't winning shit. The Tech 3 team, I'm pretty sure, was on Dunlops that year. If you look it up, that was that weird year where they're on Dunlops. Like,
No,
Yamaha.
They were on Dunlops for 3 years, weren't they? Either way,
There was a couple. Anyways, long story short, that the Stoner was, like we said, 4 people won on that bike, and the Suzukis weren't good that year either. Like, Fabio is on. Yes, the team is more well funded and probably more well organized. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure, because LCR wasn't exactly a slouch in 250, but the machinery deficit is more paramount for sure. The main difference that you could say in this conversation, to play devil's advocate, is that was the era of the tire wars with overnight tires, with Bridgestone making their tires that were insanely good for the flyaways, while at the European rounds, Michelin was able to overnight tires that would basically could help you win the race the next morning, and Stoner wasn't really getting any of those things.
And yet he got his first pole at the Qatar round without overnight tires, potentially without an overnight tire.
Potentially.
Yeah. Well, and we're forgetting about the other Honda, right? The Kenny Roberts 211.
That thing was dope. The KR 211V,
Two podiums,
the original
two
CRT bike.
Can we call it? Was it a CRT bike or was it an open?
Well,
bike?
no, because there
Either
was
way.
no claiming rules, obviously. But
true.
it
Not
was
that
pretty
anyone
cool.
ever claimed anything in MotoGP.
No, right, which was by design.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to round this point out about Fabio with one thing. Oh yes, wild speculation. Does Fabio take Maverick's seat at the end of Maverick's contract?
No, but he wins a race before Maverick does.
This year, or next year in general?
Just before.
Wow. Wild speculation it is.
You asked for wild speculation, my dog. There you go. Wild, but not unrealistic explanation. Or explanation.
I mean, if Jorge Lorenzo
What
takes
word am
out a
I talking
slightly-
about? I'm fucking drunk.
Yeah, No one noticed. All right.
What? Shut
Last
up.
last point
Shut
here.
up.
We've got one. All right. We're done with
Finland's
Fabio.
not real.
No, we're not going to talk about that. We're not talking
All
about
right.
Finland. We're not talking about birds. We're not We're not talking about Unone this time. No, so
If you were surprised when you found out birds weren't real, wait till you find out the horrifying truth about Finland. We're through the looking glass here.
next time. Next time. All right. Up next is the Assen round, which is actually classically a track where the Yamaha goes good at.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's just one of those tracks where a lot of motorcycles can do well at. So I'm excited about the race.
Hey, Ben Spies did well at it.
Before his career ended with of course you brought up Ben Spies. He's in the news. We'll talk about it in a quickie later on. There's
What a cranky dude that guy is. What a cranky old man he became. He's like 34, going on 72.
Oh, he's just I don't appreciate what is happening with the sport every time he opens his mouth. I shouldn't say his mouth. Every time someone puts a microphone in front of him. It's just it's not working out. Go read the news. We'll talk about it later. Assen is coming up. Before we start,
and if you're also interested, go onto his Twitter and just look up his likes. He was off of Twitter for like 2 years. It returns to Twitter and only likes weird conspiracy, like right-wing immigration stuff. It's super weird.
Oh no!
It's like not endorsing a political point from either side. Just go to his Twitter page and click on the likes and see the weird ass shit that he likes. Didn't
Colin have a blow up like 2 years ago?
Colin blocked us because of that. I don't know. I can't even go back and look at it because we're blocked by Colin.
All right, no wait, no, I'm changing the subject here. Let's talk about Dutch people.
Because if there's two things I hate, it's people intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
I love that movie.
That's a fucking great movie.
Yeah, it is.
Hello.
Earlier, I think 2 days ago, I was talking to Luca and I was like, "Oh man, I'm sad because I eat, or I'm sad because I eat, and I eat because I'm sad." And
right.
She didn't know what I was talking about.
Has anything ever described like half the people you know than that sentence? I eat because I'm sad, and I'm sad because I eat.
Yeah.
Fucked up, man.
No, it really is.
That's like a mind fuck.
Moving on to Dutch people.
Moving on. We'll do our episode on Austin Powers 3 some other time.
So right before we started recording this, I commented that Assen doesn't have their Saturday race anymore, and I said, "Oh, thank God." And Kev was like, "What do you mean?" So if you haven't noticed, if you're a new fan of MotoGP, or if you haven't watched the Assen round a lot, they're the longest standing MotoGP round to have existed.
The Cathedral of Speed, my dog.
Exactly. Like, if you think Indianapolis with like the Indy 500 is fancy, Assen is exactly the same, but for motorcycles, if not older.
Right.
I'm not gonna actually check the dates. Assen up until
yes, you are. No, yes, you are. You're gonna do it as soon as I start talking.
Yeah.
Why are you lying to yourself like that? Why are you lying to yourself?
All right.
It's like 1916 or some weird shit. Anyways, while Rob checks the date, because you know he's clearly going to do that, what he's talking about is that Assen is the longest standing race on the calendar. They've been on the calendar for like a fucking 100 years. But they go so far back on the calendar that they go back to when people actually cared about Jesus. But the point being, and that's a joke. They had the race tongue in cheek. They had traditionally held the race on Saturday because Sunday was, the day of rest. It was for worship, and it was for observing our religious traditions, which I'm all good with. From a variety of religions, that's great. People's cultures are interesting and variety and wide all over the world, and it's amazing. The world's a big, beautiful place. Get out of the place that you live. Please don't spend your whole life in the 100 miles of town you were born in. Go see all the people and all the things that those people believe in. That being said, the race was held on Saturday for those reasons, because that area of the Netherlands was very strict with their religious observances, so they held the race on Saturday, and I actually think that was cool. I kind of lamented not just when they sort of like circumcised Assen, so to speak, when they cut it down and changed the track and got rid of it. Um, what? What? What?
Great use
Right.
of terminology there. Perfect.
You like that? Exactly.
Yep.
That, but and I understood why they built a hotel. They had to change the track, certain things, and all the riders were upset, but it happens. Progress kind of comes whether we like it or not. But I liked the race on Saturday. I understand that races on Sunday make more money. Races on Sunday connect with the rest of the rounds, but I liked the one weird race where it was on Saturday, just like we all like the flyaways. Like, we're in California, we're in the United States, we love Sepang because we're like, whoa, we can watch the shit on Saturday night, like, in prime time. This is cool. Or the Phillip Island round, you're like, whoa, it's 10 o'clock at night on Saturday. I might Facebook Live this because I did that once. The Saturday round, Aston is so unique from its history and its standpoint and its tradition that I always really lamented them getting rid of the Saturday race. Rob, on the other hand, thinks that tradition and culture and all of that should be thrown out so he can worship at the altar of money, because what you can't see in front of him is a giant golden calf that he's worshiping right now because he worships false idols. 1917 Dutchman would not approve, Rob. That's me wagging my finger.
It's actually a 1925 Dutchman, and the Indy
All
500
right.
was 1911.
Boom.
So close.
Right.
Swing and a miss by me. No, so the thing is, like I think that MotoGP as a marketing entity and an entertainment provider has the obligation to do everything possible to provide better entertainment. If that means that if they can get 25% more fans to show up on Sunday because of Saturday, that brings more money to the track. It helps them stay open. It helps them provide, like, better grandstands, better concessions. Like, if it eventually, through all that money coming in, makes the show better, I'm all for it.
On the other hand, I would say that Sunday is only the day that they decide because that's what they decided. Lots of sports compete on a like Sunday is why. Look, there's no arguing. That's like they statistically said it. They got 20% more viewership because it's on Sunday. But that's because every other race is on Sunday. That's because we decided that's our tradition nowadays is Sunday. UFC holds all their marquee events on Saturday nights. College football, all their marquee events on Saturday nights.
I mean, Monday night.
American football has Monday nights. The day you decide is simply the day that you decide. It's up to the marketeers to decide. You're telling me it's lazy, in my opinion, on their part, to throw away literally nearly 100 years of tradition and all the stuff that comes with it, because that way it's just easier to sell this race because we sell it the same way we sell all the other races.
I mean,
we should be selling the individualistic nature of this race. And the reason for that is go back and look at Assen in the last 10 years. It is individualistic on its own. Ben Spies gets his win. Valentino gets his win after all of the fucking, being in Inferno and in Purgatory on Ducati. Assen makes for individual stories. Assen is an outlier for the season. It's like its own little thing. And to take away the one marketing aspect, the one traditional aspect that highlights that, bothers me.
I mean, I can't argue with the laziness point, because it really does, like, them moving it to Sunday and getting more ticket sales and stuff just highlights the fact that they failed to market the Saturday race correctly. You're not right. You're not wrong there. I don't.
And we have to question ourselves whether on-track ticket sales are really something that makes a huge difference. For instance, there's like 800 people at Qatar.
It makes a difference for tracks that aren't subsidized by, like, oil seeks. I don't know if that is the correct word.
Sheik. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yes, there's arguments to be said, and you're entirely right, and I'm not against the argument, but what it should be is, look, if you're a marketer, if your job is to promote MotoGP, if you're like you have my dream job. Like
Which we've talked about before.
I would do that job for like 50 grand and
Yeah.
be happy and like live the life that I want to live, right? Like I'd have my cabin up in Mendocino. I would live where I live. Like things would be great. I don't need a whole lot. I would be legitimately inspired to market this thing to people for the sake of it. The easiest thing in the world for marketing is when something is unique and has history. You don't need to do any work. You just look up Wikipedia. You've got 93 years of fucking like source material. You know, Gary V, you know what I'm talking about, right? He can sell sneakers based off this thing. Like, go on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. This won't make any sense.
I don't know
But
who
like,
Gary V is.
if you're a hustler and you're someone who gets off and who is stoked on like the hustle and the marketing, there's so much to market off of the Saturday race, and to get rid of that because of the convenience of pre-established television schedules bums me out. Because the one thing about motorcycle racing is it highlights the individual. Yes, Formula Voldemort is awesome, and the bikes are so fucking technically amazing that they
The cars.
ride on a tunnel upside down with their downforce and all that stupid shit. But MotoGP highlights the individual in a way that no other motorsport does.
While also
because
being a team sport.
While being a team sport, because the rider is right there. You see him, you see his mannerisms, you see his physicality. When he crashes, you see his face, you see the anguish. Like, there's something there, and the individual nature of it, the unique nature of every rider, like, to me, that plays into the Saturday race. That plays into this unique history. Like, Rob and I have been talking about making a new BrotoGP shirt, and I've been scouring the Library of Congress for like old board
Don't
track,
tell 'em.
grass track. No, I'm hyping them up right now. Files on how we can make like a cool digital print of like a 1912 grass track race. Like, right? Because motorcycles are even more unique and interesting in their history than any other fucking motorsport. And you should be playing into that. Yes, like I made a joke about like Jesus and it's religious, and maybe in 2019 that doesn't sell in the way that maybe it sold in other times, but you can sell a Saturday race as a special event, as a tent pole event, in a way that you can't sell the other races. If you simply had a guy who was inspired by his job as opposed to doing his job. There's a fucking conceptual difference there.
Wow. You not only just pitched your resume, you also just got me sold on the idea of the Saturday race.
Right.
Holy shit.
I mean, you have a night race in Qatar, right? The night race makes no sense. How many times have we had this night race fucking postponed because of rain, right? It's already happened like 2 times. They have a night race.
The 4-day schedule, the riders saying every year that the track is like dangerous after like 11:30 p.m. or whatever.
Right, we have a Moto E championship to highlight how progressive we are, and then we decide to have a race under lights in the desert, right? Paid for by a bunch of like terrorist funding oil sheiks in countries where women have no rights. And we just pretend like that doesn't exist. And yet, like, we highlight the tentpole nature of it's like all the bikes even have special paint jobs during that race to highlight the lights and shit. That guy's job is to just look up and say, "Hey, some lights." You know what I mean?
And it makes sure all the racers are using clear visors.
Do you know what someone who's stoked on the history of MotoGP could do with the race in Assen if given a little bit of free reign and sell it? That thing should be on Saturday, and that should be the most watched race. Put it on Saturday night. Put it on Saturday afternoon. Like, that is so easy to sell by someone who's passionate about it. I'm doing it right now, and I'm just some idiot who lives in a barn.
I love it. All right, I think we're going to end the episode with you saying you're an idiot that lives in a barn.
Right. I mean, last episode, Rob was going to talk about, speaking of tracks and tentpole and new tracks with unique and interesting histories, testing at the Finland circuit, but now he doesn't want to talk about that.
No, Yeah, we're not going to talk about Finland. Maybe we'll bring it up in October or something when they fail to go there again.
Because it doesn't exist. It's not there. There
Yeah.
is no track because the country doesn't exist.
Except, I mean, if you want to win, hire a Finn, though. I don't know, but never mind. Formula Voldemort, we're not going to talk about it.
Right.
All right, everyone. As you've already got from this episode, Aston is coming up next. We expect it to be much more of a spectacle than the Catalunya round.
Right. Well, it depends on what you mean by spectacle, because that crash was pretty spectacular.
More a longer lasting spectacle. Yeah.
A competitive spectacle. A longer lasting spectacle, title of my sex tape.
A competitive spectacle. I don't know whose sex tape that is.
Exactly.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening.
If you think a throwback 1922 board track, no brakes, curved handlebars, leather helmet, eyes squinting in the fucking sun shirt sounds dope, you tell us. Smoking cigarettes, hanging out the back, cowhide boots, pulled up, no fucking armor, because that was a man's sport back in the day.
Can we movie review Silver Dream Racer? Do you remember that movie?
What?
Do you remember the motorcycle movie Silver Dream Racer?
No.
Oh, well, you should.
I do want to review Cool as Ice, though.
Wait, what movie is that?
What did you just say?
Okay, well, you don't know Silver Dream
What?
Racer, so wait. Cool
No.
as Ice?
What did you just say?
Oh, no, I didn't know this existed.
What?
No, I really didn't.
Wait, no, hold on. This podcast is not ending.
Yes, it is.
This asshole just said, have I heard of Silver Dream Racer, but he has never seen nor even understood that Cool as Ice exists.
Wait, this is a movie.
Yeah.
Wait.
Fuck! It's not a movie, it's the movie. In 8,000 years, when Wall-E is traveling through the dirt, and then the humans come back, the fat-ass humans who can't walk on their thing, the only thing that should have been on Voyager 1 and 2 sent out to space, on that gold fucking record, with a naked dude and a naked chick, and the pulsar equivalent of where we are based on pulsars in the Milky Way galaxy, and those gold records with all the sounds, should have been a VHS copy of Cool as Ice.
VHS, huh?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to close it out on that. I'm going to have to go watch. You go watch Silver Dream Racer. I'll go watch Cool as Ice.
We'll report back.
We'll come back. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you're on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, tell your friends. Actually, thanks to that guy that told his buddy who is now giving a shit for not making a new episode because you're addicted. You know, it's kind of a win-win for us. So
right, exactly. And remember, Finland's not real. It exists there in ocean, which is Japanese fish, free environmental regulations. The Trans-Siberian Railway exists to ship those fish from Russia to Japan, and that's why Japan is the biggest importer of Nokia products, despite no one in Japan having Nokia products, because every single Nokia phone they claim is actually a fish, and it's called Finland because what do fish have? But they have fins and scene.
Shout out to John for all your help at Moto America Tech in Utah. You're an awesome dude. And God, there was someone else I wanted to thank. We'll get to it soon. Peace.